You know what you're feeling, and that's the problem, because you know why you're feeling it and where it came from, what childhood pattern it connects to, what defense mechanism it's activating, what part of you is being triggered. And yet, despite all that clarity, you don't feel lighter. You feel heavier. You walk through your days, narrating yourself from the inside, watching your reactions as they happen, correcting your emotions mid-feel, questioning whether your boundaries are trauma responses or healthy self-respect, wondering if your sadness is valid or indulgent, if your anger is justified or displaced. You don't just experience life. You audit it. Everyone around you thinks you're doing well. You're reflective. You're insightful. You're emotionally intelligent. You can articulate your wounds with surgical precision. You can name your patterns before they even finish forming. But inside, something is quietly exhausting you. Because here's the paradox no one warns you about. The self-awareness that once saved you is now suffocating you. At some point, awareness became safety. Understanding became control. Naming pain became a way to stay ahead of it. But now, you can't turn the camera off. You can't rest inside a feeling without dissecting it. You can't act without analyzing your motive. You can't connect without monitoring your tone, your trauma, your attachment style. You've become both the patient and the clinician, the child and the watcher, the wound and the interpreter. And slowly, subtly, life starts to feel distant and muted. You observed yourself living instead of actually being alive. This isn't a failure of growth. It's the shadow side of it. Psychologically, what you're experiencing is not too much insight. It's hyper-reflective consciousness, a state where self-awareness shifts from curiosity into vigilance. One of the key mechanisms here is hypervigilance, not toward external danger, but toward the self. Your nervous system learned early that being unaware was dangerous, that missing emotional cues led to pain, conflict, and at times abandonment. So awareness became your default mode. It's the part of your brain that helps you think about yourself and your identity. When it's working well, it gives life meaning, but when it's too active, it can turn into a non-stop cycle of self-critique. You're not just thinking, you're monitoring. This often happens to people who grew up reading the room, kids who had to be super aware of others' feelings or face consequences for misunderstandings. Add to this avoidant attachment, and self-awareness becomes a way to maintain distance while appearing open. You understand intimacy intellectually, but emotionally, you stay one step removed. Philosophically, this mirrors what existentialists warned about. When consciousness turns inward too intensely, it fractures presence. You become a mirror facing itself. Infinite reflection, no ground. Your insight didn't emerge in a vacuum. It emerged because at one point, not knowing was dangerous. The cost of excessive self-awareness is not confusion, it's alienation. You feel separate from your own instincts. You hesitate before joy. You question desire. You intellectualize grief before it can move through you. Carl Jung warned that one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. But he also warned that consciousness without integration leads to fragmentation. You don't just feel sad. You analyze sadness. You don't just love. You question attachment. You don't just rest. You ask whether rest is avoidance. And beneath all that analysis is a quieter grief. The grief of losing spontaneity, of no longer trusting your first impulse, of editing yourself before you arrive, of fearing that if you stop watching, something will go wrong. You sacrificed innocence for insight, instinct for interpretation, presence for protection. The core fear driving this isn't ignorance, it's loss of control. Because if you stop watching yourself, you might feel something you can't immediately explain. You might need something without justifying it. You might act without permission. So even peace becomes work. Even healing becomes a project. And the invisible grief is this. You know yourself deeply, but you don't always feel yourself fully. This pattern shows up everywhere in adulthood, disguised as maturity. You might over-explain your emotions instead of feeling them. You second-guess every decision, even small ones. You struggle with decisiveness despite high intelligence. You feel disconnected during moments that should feel meaningful. You constantly question your motives and authenticity. You fear being misunderstood more than being alone. You feel emotionally tired without knowing why. In relationships, you might analyze dynamics instead of inhabiting them. In work, you might overthink purpose instead of building momentum. In solitude, you might spiral into self-review instead of rest. But here is the reframe that changes everything. These are coping strategies, not your personality. Self-awareness became your way of staying safe. It's not your final form. Unlearning begins with witnessing without commentary. Letting a feeling exist without labeling it. Letting an impulse arise without psychoanalyzing it. Letting silence be silence, not insight in disguise. You stop gaslighting yourself with insight. You stop explaining away your humanity. Healing the dark side of self-awareness is not about becoming less conscious. It's about becoming embodied. Practices like inner child reparenting help you comfort that part of you that learned to be aware just to survive. You say, "You can stop watching now. I've got you." Shadow work is all about embracing those messy feelings we often push away, like desire, anger, and longing. You learn to choose presence over precision. To feel first, to explain later, or not at all. Philosopher Martin Heidegger spoke of dwelling, not observing life, but inhabiting it. That is the invitation here, to step out of the control tower, to land inside your body and trust that awareness can soften into wisdom. As psychoanalyst Donald Winnicott wrote, "The true self does not need to be constantly monitored. You are not behind because you think deeply. You are tired because you never stopped watching." And the goal is not to abandon awareness, it's to let it rest. You don't need to be more conscious, you need to be more alive. If you want more content that explores the psychology behind your patterns and the silent agreements you never realized you made, please like and share this with someone who could benefit from it. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't have to navigate this inner work alone. Remember, the goal isn't to fix you, it's to help you feel whole at last.